After learning that Luo Feng did not regard a peak primal chaos realm master as anything significant, Emperor Chu Yu and the deputy pavilion master of Flame Wind Pavilion were deeply shaken. Realizing that in the land of origin only godly kings and primal chaos realm beings stood at the true peak of power. And among them those at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm were especially terrifying. Such existences possessed spiritual will at the very least equal to the peak of the primal chaos realm, and possibly even comparable to a god king's will, allowing them to use the reincarnation secret art to be reborn with all memories intact. Because of this, even if killed, they could return through reincarnation, making them extremely difficult to eliminate permanently, as no matter how strong one's background was, it was nearly impossible to trace or destroy their reincarnated identity. Due to this, most forces avoided provoking such beings unless absolutely necessary, since pushing them too far would only result in immediate retaliation and death, followed by inevitable reincarnation and return. Furthermore, there was an unspoken rule in the land of origin that god kings would not easily interfere in conflicts between primal chaos realm experts unless there was sufficient justification. As a result, those at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm were effectively the highest deterrent force in normal circumstances outside the two ancient countries. Given this understanding, the deputy pavilion master concluded that they could not assist Luo He, considering his actions reckless and self-destructive, and Emperor Chu Yu agreed, noting that although Luo He might have believed he could protect himself, the gap between him and a true pinnacle of primal chaos expert was enormous, especially compared to newly advanced primal chaos realm cultivators. At the city lord's mansion, General Yu Wu's expression changed with concern as he recognized the gravity of the situation. And standing beside him, General Yang Hu listened as Yu Wu warned that even for the sake of face, Marquis Lu Yin would be forced to act. And once he did, it would not be a simple matter. He emphasized that Lu Yin was known as the catastrophe of the world, and when he made a move it often meant widespread destruction and disaster. Further fearing that Lu Yin's anger might not be limited to Luo Feng alone but could extend to the entire Huyang city. Yang Hu was surprised by this assessment, but Yu Wu continued grimly, explaining that Lu Yin's reputation was built on ruthless and overwhelming actions. And in this situation even humiliation could provoke him into extreme retaliation. Yu Wu then revealed that although his master had given him a life-saving treasure, allowing him to escape with a few people if necessary, he would not be able to protect the entire city. And upon hearing this, Yang Hu accepted the reality, understanding the limits of their protection while also feeling the weight of their shared allegiance as disciples of the monarch of Yu country. Elsewhere, Moyu Qingyan was extremely worried about her master after the death of Lu Yinyan and turned her attention anxiously toward Morosa, who remained calm and reassured her that Luo Feng had sparred with him many times and that he understood Luo Feng's true strength better than most, slightly easing the tension. Meanwhile, the dark red armored incarnation of Marquis Lu Yin hovered in the sky and coldly warned Luo Feng, implying that his arrogance would lead to death. And after speaking, the incarnation dissipated into nothingness. Almost immediately afterward, a terrifying aura erupted from the Heartshadow sect base as Marquis Lu Yin's true body arrived using a spacetime treasure bestowed by the sect, enabling instant deployment, and his presence caused the entire atmosphere of Huyang City to change drastically as an overwhelming oppressive force spread outward. Standing at the Heartshadow sect base, Lu Yin looked up toward Luo Feng, who calmly met his gaze. And Lu Yin uttered a single word, courageous, before suddenly disappearing. In the next instant, the sky transformed completely as the entire horizon darkened and turned into an endless bloodfire world, with a massive domain of crimson energy spreading like living veins across the sky, covering billions of miles and plunging the entire region into a sense of impending doom. All cultivators in Huyang City looked up in terror as the sky turned dark red, feeling as though death itself was approaching, while the bloodfire world expanded everywhere, making the entire region feel like a domain of catastrophe. Even the Heartshadow sect members, including its master and 18 elders, observed from afar, recalling how even in past battles involving Great Saint Juyuan they had only been able to watch helplessly from a distance while their sect formation eventually collapsed. The Heartshadow sect master remarked that Lu Yin had only intended to target Marquis of Zhujiang and obtain compensation. But Luo Feng's interference had escalated the situation. while Elder Hartai and others discussed Lu Yin's terrifying reputation, noting that he was comparable to Great Saint Juyuan and belonged to the rare group of pinnacle primal chaos experts, making it impossible for any newly advanced primal chaos cultivator to resist him. They further observed that Lu Yin's true body had merged with the Bloodfire world itself, meaning his existence was no longer a single physical form but the entire domain, allowing him to manifest anywhere within it and making him nearly impossible to locate or counter directly. And they concluded that Luo Feng's only hope would be to survive using life-saving techniques while waiting to see whether Lu Yin's opponent could resist or escape. Luo Feng, observing the vast Bloodfire world, noted its scale and overwhelming destructive aura. And suddenly a gigantic face formed in the sky representing Lu Yin's will as he spoke coldly, claiming that within his world there was no escape and questioning whether Luo Feng's reincarnation ability could function properly, since newly advanced primal chaos cultivators might not awaken their memories after reincarnation, making true death still possible if they failed to regain awareness in time. At that moment, Marquis of Zhujiang appeared above Huyang city, standing beside Luo Feng and immediately confronting Lu Yin, briefly suppressing the Bloodfire world using void ripples, then telling Luo Feng through telepathy to escape immediately with his companions as he could not hold Lu Yin for long and feared the entire city might be destroyed, before merging into the void to fully prepare for battle despite knowing victory was unlikely. A fierce clash erupted between the Bloodfire world and Zhu Yang's void power as Lu Yin manifested millions of Bloodfire avatars launching devastating attacks that tore through void defenses, while Zhu Zhang formed a void net that shredded countless avatars, demonstrating equally profound techniques. Yet Lu Yin's overwhelming domain power continued to expand and suppress the void layer by layer. Luo Feng observed closely and realized that both Lu Yin and Zhu Zhang were far above his current realm, their techniques extremely intricate and far more advanced than his own to the point where he could not even identify their true bodies. And he understood that as cultivation levels increased, not only did raw power grow but the conceptual depth of techniques also reached an entirely different dimension. Emperor Chu Yu urgently transmitted more intelligence to Luo Feng, explaining Lu Yin's identity in detail as the disaster of the world, whose true form was the Bloodfire world itself, warning of his extreme danger and urging Luo Feng to retreat while there was still time. Yet despite repeated warnings, Luo Feng calmly replied that he would first assess the situation. Zhu Zhang, meanwhile, struggled to maintain his void domain as the Bloodfire world intensified, burning his divine power continuously. He urged Luo Feng again to escape, stating he could no longer hold out much longer. At this point, Luo Feng replied calmly that if Zhu Zhang could not continue, he would take over. As pressure intensified across the battlefield, Luo Feng finally acted. A vast silver river suddenly erupted from him, sweeping across the entire region of Huyang city. The river expanded endlessly, covering roads, buildings, and space itself, forming a protective barrier that shielded all cultivators within the city from the destructive force of the Bloodfire world. Luo Feng explained internally that among his 15 transformation methods, the Galaxy Transformation method was best suited for large-scale deployment. Over time, he had refined multiple transformation techniques, even capturing creatures from the primal chaos layer to enhance his understanding. However, only 5 of these methods were used on himself, while others were reserved for broader applications. He then summoned 8,000 silver blade lights simultaneously, each one suspended in the sky. These blade lights formed the foundation of his attack technique, Blade River Slash, a move he had refined over time by simplifying and purifying its structure to focus purely on raw destructive force, eliminating unnecessary spatial targeting and complex variations to reduce mental strain. When Luo Feng issued the command to strike, the 8,000 blade lights descended together, unleashing overwhelming force. The attack shattered layers of space instantly, spreading across hundreds of billions of kilometers. Everything within range was annihilated, collapsing back into primal chaos. Even the outer boundary of the world, the braided cage membrane, was reached, though it remained unbroken due to its extreme structural resilience. The sheer destruction shocked all observers, including Zhu Zhang, Chu Yu, and Lu Yin himself. Lu Yin, who had not been injured for a long time due to his Bloodfire world form, was now wounded for the first time in ages. He realized that Luo Feng was not a newly advanced primal chaos cultivator but possessed strength comparable to the pinnacle of primal chaos realm. Luo Feng, standing above the Silver River, calmly stated that he had never claimed to be newly advanced, and that Lu Yin was the one who had provoked him in Huyang City. Luo Feng was identified as a hidden cultivator at the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm when he intervened in the war between Marquis Lu Yin and Marquis of Zhujiang in Huyang City. In the land of origin, many powerful primal chaos realm cultivators prefer to live in seclusion rather than join nations and accept official titles, as such positions bring continuous resources but also bind them with heavy responsibilities and entanglements. Some even disguise themselves as ordinary cultivators, quietly cultivating in remote areas in hopes of eventually comprehending the Tao and breaking through to the godly king tier. Marquis Lu Yin initially considered Luo Feng an ordinary recluse and even attempted to hire him for 1 billion cosmic sand. However, after realizing Luo Feng's true strength, he regretted not offering an even higher price, understanding that even tens of billions would have been worth it. Unfortunately, by then the situation had already escalated beyond repair, and Luo Feng had aligned himself against him. When confronted, Luo Feng stated that he had no interest in the territorial dispute between Marquis Lu Yin and Marquis of Zhujiang. However, he refused to ignore the conflict because Lu Yin's forces had repeatedly massacred innocent civilians within Huyang City, the place where Luo Feng was cultivating in seclusion. He had initially tolerated limited conflict, but once large-scale slaughter and looting began, he chose to intervene directly. Marquis Lu Yin, unwilling to accept the situation, launched an attack using his willpower secret technique. His spiritual will had been tempered over countless years and had reached a level close to the godly king tier. However, Luo Feng's will remained completely stable and unaffected, easily resisting the attack. Luo Feng then dismissed Lu Yin's technique as irritating and unworthy of attention. Following this, Luo Feng unleashed his technique of 8,000 galaxy blade lights, which swept across the battlefield and destroyed a vast portion of the Bloodfire world. Although the attack was powerful, Marquis Lu Yin was able to minimize the damage by retreating part of his divine power and reforming the world structure. The Bloodfire world quickly regenerated, and Lu Yin began counter-attacking with more mysterious and invasive techniques. The Bloodfire world's power manifested as strange corrosion forces, including bloodfire energy, burning flames, and calamity-like forces that attempted to infiltrate Luo Feng's godly body from within. Lu Yin's intention was to bypass external defenses and erode Luo Feng internally, exploiting any hidden weakness that might exist in his physical cultivation. However, Luo Feng was not easily affected. Instead, he analyzed the technique with interest, noting that although his own attacks were straightforward and destructive, Lu Yin's methods were far more intricate and strange. Soon after, Lu Yin escalated the battle by condensing the entire Bloodfire world's energy into a single form, creating a dark crimson armored world's body. This world's body instantly appeared in front of Luo Feng and launched a powerful close-range attack aimed directly at his shoulder. The strike was extremely sudden and precise, leaving almost no time to react. However, to Lu Yin's shock, the blade failed to break through Luo Feng's black robe, let alone harm his physical body. At the moment of impact, black liquid-like energy emerged from Luo Feng's robe and instantly enveloped both the weapon and the world's body. This energy acted like a terrifying binding force, rapidly restricting and disintegrating the enemy's constructed body. Within moments, the world's body collapsed completely, leaving only the weapon behind. Luo Feng casually evaluated the weapon, recognizing it as a top-tier primal chaos realm armament. He estimated its value at around 5 billion cosmic sand and stored it away in his star tower without much concern. This calm reaction further emphasized the gap between his level and Lu Yin's strength. Marquis Lu Yin was deeply shocked. He could not understand how his strongest constructed form, powered by the entire Bloodfire world, could be so easily destroyed. He realized that Luo Feng's true strength lay in his physical body, which far surpassed conventional primal chaos realm cultivators and was already approaching a level comparable to early godly kings in durability. Still unwilling to concede, Lu Yin continued to escalate his attacks. He attempted to use various bizarre infiltration forces, blood corruption, flame erosion, and karmic-like calamity energy, to slowly wear down Luo Feng's godly body. He believed that even if Luo Feng's external defense was strong, there might still be internal vulnerabilities that could be exploited over time. At this point, Luo Feng suddenly changed his stance. He expanded his godly body to an immense scale, growing larger and larger until his head reached the edge of the starry sky. His body towered above clouds and continents, and even a single finger appeared larger than Huyang City itself. This display shocked all observers, as such a form was typically only achievable by godly kings. Lu Yin was stunned by this transformation, realizing that maintaining such a massive divine body under cosmic suppression required terrifying control and foundation. Luo Feng's presence alone now dominated the entire battlefield, and the pressure he emitted made even space itself feel unstable. With overwhelming force, Luo Feng brought down his giant palm and shattered the entire Bloodfire world, reducing it back into primal chaos energy. The world structure collapsed completely, forcing Marquis Lu Yin's true body to retreat. Although he escaped, he was severely injured by the backlash. Recognizing that continuing the fight would lead to irreversible consequences, Lu Yin attempted to negotiate. He proposed that if Luo Feng stayed out of the conflict between him and Marquis of Zhujiang, he could offer compensation and favorable terms. However, Luo Feng firmly rejected the proposal, declaring that Huyang City was under his protection and that he would not tolerate further chaos. Understanding that he could not win and that Luo Feng was an extremely dangerous isolated powerhouse with no major factional ties, Lu Yin chose to retreat. He merged with the remaining world energy and disappeared from the battlefield. After the battle, the entire Huyang City fell into silence and awe. Countless cultivators looked up through the cloud layers and saw only the lower portion of Luo Feng's colossal divine body, which stretched endlessly into the sky. The pressure he emitted alone was enough to suppress all weaker cultivators in the city. Marquis of Zhujiang, witnessing this power firsthand, felt deep shock and realization that a physical cultivator at the pinnacle of primal chaos realm could reach such an overwhelming level of strength. Even powerful Marquis-level beings could not easily confront such an existence head-on. Moyu Qingyan, who had once known Luo Feng as a reclusive master, looked up at the towering figure in disbelief. Only now did she fully understand the true depth of her master's power, as the being standing above the heavens was no longer merely a hidden cultivator, but a supreme existence capable of dominating entire battlefields with a single gesture. After defeating Marquis Lu Yin, Luo Feng realized that although his close combat strength was extremely powerful, his methods of trapping enemies were lacking, allowing Marquis Lu Yin to retreat freely. The outside world regarded Luo Feng as a body-refining expert at the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm. However, Luo Feng knew that his immense strength came not only from his perfect divine body reaching its limit but also from his formless and intangible transformation methods, which fundamentally transformed his divine power by incorporating life spirituality, making his body even more terrifying. Luo Feng returned to his normal size and landed in the city lord's mansion. Marquis of Zhujiang personally came to greet him with great gratitude and humility, apologizing for previously mistaking him for an eternal true god. Although they had not interacted much, Luo Feng had a favorable impression of Zhujiang because he had always been generous and had attempted to help when Marquis Lu Yin attacked. Moyu Qingyan was overwhelmed with excitement after discovering her master's true strength. Morosa reminded her that becoming Luo Feng's only disciple was a tremendous fortune and that she must cherish the opportunity. Morosa himself understood that he was merely Luo Feng's servant, while Luo Feng was a figure capable of standing among the great powers of the land of origin. The battle shocked countless cultivators, including General Yuwu, Moli Shao, the lord of Huyang City, and many eternal true gods. Even the Dream Flower Tower master felt honored that such a powerful being had been moved by her music. Dairong Qi was also deeply grateful that Luo Feng, a stronger existence than Marquis Lu Yin, had helped avenge her. At Flame Wind Pavilion, Emperor Chu Yu and the Deputy Pavilion Master discussed Luo Feng's strength. They believed he was a rare pinnacle primal chaos realm expert focused on body cultivation, with a divine body that could reach the size of heaven and earth. The Deputy Pavilion Master explained that such figures were extremely rare even across the land of origin. However, Emperor Chu Yu noted that Luo Feng had not forced Marquis Lu Yin to use his life-saving techniques, indicating that his advantage was limited. He hoped that after becoming a guest elder under Emperor Chu's lineage, Luo Feng could receive better cultivation resources and possibly advance to the transcendence of primal chaos realm, a level where cultivators possessed power comparable to ordinary godly kings. The deputy pavilion master was concerned that such a powerful expert had appeared suddenly without any previous reputation. But Emperor Chu Yu believed that at worst Luo Feng was simply a transmigrated god king, which was not a significant matter for the flame-wind ancient country. Meanwhile, in Huyang City, Marquis of Zhujiang sincerely thanked Luo Feng. He revealed that throughout this era, he had traveled across the land of origin seeking powerful allies but failed because no one wanted to offend the ruthless Marquis Lu Yin. Since Luo Feng came from the Samsara channel and had no ties or burdens in the land of origin, he was able to act more freely. Zhu Zhang admitted that the 1 billion cosmic sand he had paid Luo Feng was insignificant compared to the value of preserving his entire territory. Having no treasures worthy of repayment, he decided to gift Huyang City to Luo Feng. The city would continue paying 20% of its residence fees to the god kings, while all remaining income, resources, and authority over the city would belong to Luo Feng. Initially, Luo Feng hesitated because he planned to travel to the flame-wind ancient country and could not personally govern the city. Zhu Zhang explained that Luo Feng's reputation alone would protect Huyang City and that his subordinates could handle management. He also admitted his selfish reason: if Huyang City became Luo Feng's city, Marquis Lu Yin would never dare attack again, allowing Zhu Zhang to preserve the rest of his territory. Luo Feng accepted, as Huyang City was the first city where he lived after arriving in the land of origin and held special significance to him. Afterward, Zhu Zhang discussed the fate of Heart Shadow sect. He suggested looting the sect's remaining treasures and releasing its members, arguing that the two primal chaos realm leaders had already escaped with the sect's most valuable treasures and that destroying the sect might provoke them. Luo Feng rejected this proposal. He stated that the Heart Shadow sect had already offended him by massacring the citizens of Huyang City. Since they enjoyed killing and plundering others, there was no need for the Heart Shadow sect to continue existing. He ordered the sect to be disbanded and demanded an investigation of every eternal true god within it. Any member who participated in the massacre of Huyang City would be executed, while those who did not participate would be allowed to leave. When Zhu Zhang warned that this would offend the two escaped primal chaos realm cultivators, Luo Feng calmly replied that if they were offended, then so be it. Unlike Great Saint Zhuyuan, he did not have such a good temper. After Marquis Lu Yin retreated, Marquis of Zhujiang agreed to let Luo Feng take control of Huyang City, though he still needed to report to the monarch and arrange matters regarding the 5 great families that previously managed the city lord's mansion. With this decision, the fate of all factions in Huyang City was determined. The Heart Shadow sect fell into panic after losing Marquis Lu Yin's protection. The sect master, the 18 elders, and Chu Yi knew they could not resist Luo Feng and Marquis of Zhujiang and could only await judgment. Soon, Marquis of Zhujiang used his void power to transport all eternal true gods of the Heart Shadow sect into a prison. Zhang Yuyu, a trusted commander of Marquis of Zhujiang, announced under Luo Feng's orders that the Heart Shadow sect's crimes of plundering Huyang City and slaughtering its citizens would be investigated. The sect master sought help from the 2 primal chaos realm elders of the sect, but both refused to intervene, fearing that further provoking Luo Feng could bring disaster upon themselves. Zhang Yuyu declared that because the Heart Shadow sect had organized the looting and slaughter, the sect would be dissolved. Those who participated in the massacres would be executed without mercy, while those who only participated in looting and did not kill would receive lighter punishment. The city lord's mansion possessed records of all crimes, ensuring that the guilty would not escape and the innocent would not be wrongly killed. The surviving members praised Luo Feng's mercy, as preserving their own lives mattered more to them than the destruction of the sect. In the royal capital of Yu Kingdom, Princess Yu Shui Tianyu received intelligence about the battle in Huyang City. She was shocked to discover that Luo He was actually a pinnacle primal chaos realm expert hidden within Huyang City. She summoned the Black Butcher and his disciples Suo Zi, informing them that Luo He had defeated Marquis Lu Yin and revealing his true identity. She believed their previous connection with Luo He could become valuable in the future. At Flame Wind Pavilion, Emperor Chu Yu met with Luo Feng and admitted that Luo Feng had successfully concealed his true strength. Luo Feng explained that he had remained in Huyang City while focusing on studying body refinement techniques. Since Emperor Chu Yu had also broken through into the primal chaos realm, they prepared to return together to the flame-wind ancient country. Emperor Chu Yu explained that the two ancient countries controlled the central regions of the land of origin and held its most valuable resources. In border nations, reaching the pinnacle of the primal chaos realm usually marked the limit of cultivation. But the ancient countries possessed superior inheritances that allowed some primal chaos realm cultivators to reach a level comparable to ordinary godly kings. Known as the transcendence of primal chaos realm tier, he further explained that most powerful godly kings who established second-tier nations, such as the rulers of Yu Kingdom and Shi Kingdom, were ministers of the two ancient countries. All major forces in the land of origin had to align themselves with one of these two ancient countries, which effectively set the rules for the entire world. Within the flame-wind ancient country, fierce competition existed among the imperial 13 branches, disciples of the emperor, disciples of minister god kings, and independent cultivators like Luo Feng. Resources were limited, so the strong became stronger while the weak gradually lost access to opportunities. Emperor Chu Yu hoped Luo Feng would assist him after their return, and he would offer support in return. Luo Feng was eager to enter the flame-wind ancient country because it possessed the inheritances and opportunities necessary for him to become stronger. He intended to continue pursuing the path toward avenging his master, the mountain-sitting guest, by surpassing the three masters of the Shi Kingdom who had once attacked his master. Emperor Chu Yu also mentioned the constant conflict between the Flame-Wind ancient country and the Thunder ancient country. Smaller wars involved primal chaos realm experts, while larger conflicts required the participation of godly kings. Luo Feng showed no fear of such battles and was filled with fighting spirit due to the strength of his perfect primal chaos realm divine body and the 5 great transformations technique. Chu Yu felt more confident with Luo Feng's support and stated that after the new Flame-Wind Pavilion master arrived to take over affairs, they would depart together for the Flame-Wind ancient country. After the battle between two pinnacle of primal chaos realm experts, ancient Huyang City finally returned to peace. The aftermath of the conflict unfolded overnight as the remaining members of the Heart Shadow sect and related forces were released and reorganized. That night, a large number of eternal true gods of void space, and lower-level true gods from the Heart Shadow sect were freed. The eternal true gods of the sect suffered heavy losses, as all their mechanical weapons, sect relics, and accumulated treasures were confiscated, leaving them completely stripped of equipment. In contrast, the true gods of void space and weaker disciples were not heavily targeted, allowing them to retain more of their personal freedom. Faced with this situation, the eternal true gods reacted differently. Many chose to leave Huyang City entirely. Although they had lost their external treasures, they still possessed strong secret techniques and combat experience from their time in a major sect, giving them confidence to survive elsewhere. Some discussed heading to ordinary cities or other regions, as they no longer trusted the stability of Huyang City, which lay on the border of two countries and could become a battlefield again. However, not all departed. A portion of cultivators, including some eternal true gods, chose to stay. They believed that Great Saint Luo He was someone who hated evil forces and that under his rule, Huyang City would remain relatively safe. Others, especially weaker true gods of void space and lower-tier true gods, preferred not to travel far and decided to settle in Huyang City permanently. They also viewed Luo Feng favorably, noting that he did not seize their personal treasures, which gave them a sense of security. As a result, although over 80% of the eternal true gods eventually left, most mid and low-tier cultivators remained. This influx still increased the overall number of powerful cultivators in Huyang City, gradually transforming its structure and making it more densely populated with experts than before. From the city lord's mansion, Luo Feng observed the city under the night sky. The once turbulent Huyang City was now calm, and it had fully become his territory. Beside him, Morosa appeared and reported on the results of the cleanup operation. All treasures belonging to the Heart Shadow sect had been sealed, sorted, and carefully tallied under his supervision. Morosa presented an inked jade bottle containing the inventory. He explained that the Heart Shadow sect's true core wealth had been stored in the Flame Wind Association's Dark Hall and guarded by 2 pinnacle of Primal Chaos Realm experts. Those resources were only accessible under authorization from the sect master, meaning the seized assets represented only a portion of the sect's total foundation. The confiscated wealth mainly came from thousands of eternal true gods of the Heart Shadow sect and included both their personal possessions and plundered resources from Huyang City. Because everything had been mixed together, precise separation was impossible. In total, the assets amounted to more than 2.9 billion cosmic sand in direct wealth, along with approximately 3.7 billion cosmic sand worth of weapons, treasures, warships from the Flame-Wind ancient country, sect-protecting formations, and large mechanical artifacts. Altogether, the total value exceeded 6 billion cosmic sand. Luo Feng accepted the report calmly. He understood that this was only part of the Heart Shadow sect's full accumulation. The real core treasures were still in the hands of the two pinnacle of primal chaos realm ancestors. Compared to figures like Marquis Lu Yin, whose single weapon alone could reach 50 billion cosmic sand, this amount was not truly shocking to him. The sect's inheritance resources were also reviewed. There were 122 types of primal chaos realm inheritances and 5 godly king-level inheritances. However, the 5 godly king-level inheritances were incomplete, each only containing cultivation content up to the primal chaos realm. The remaining higher-level portions were still controlled by the 2 Heart Shadow sect ancestors. This confirmed to Luo Feng that top-level inheritances were tightly restricted and not easily obtained. After examining the inheritance records himself, Luo Feng realized that acquiring complete godly king-level inheritances would be extremely difficult without entering a major power structure. He considered that becoming a guest elder of the Flame-Wind ancient country might provide opportunities to compete for resources and access higher-level inheritances, though such opportunities would inevitably come at a significant cost and competition. That same night, changes also occurred within the former ruling class of Huyang City, the 5 great families. Their descendants were unwilling to accept the new reality that Huyang City was now governed by Great Saint Luohe. Their former privileges, wealth distributions, and administrative influence were all lost. The Flame-Wind Pavilion organized flying boats to escort these families away. Although many resisted internally, they had no power to oppose the decision, as it had been approved by higher authorities within the Yu Kingdom, including godly kings and primal chaos realm experts. Even Marquis Zhu Zhang had voluntarily transferred control of Huyang City to Luohe, and the Yu Kingdom monarch had no objections. With no authority to contest the decision, the 5 great families were forced to comply. They were informed that they would be reassigned to their ancestral lands, as there were no available positions for them in other major cities. Their previous status as ruling families was completely dissolved, and with it, their access to continuous resources and privileges ended permanently.